Hello, my dearest INFJ entrepreneurs. Welcome back to another video, or if you're listening to this on the podcast, welcome back to the podcast. Today, we're going to talk about the resistance. Yes, this is going to be such a fun topic for us today to kind of discuss and go through, because I feel like resistance has been one of the most insidious emotions that are really stopping us from not only growing as a persons, but also growing in our businesses and really doing what it takes and taking the actions what we need to take in order to grow into our whatever next level we want to go. Okay, so resistance to me is internal most of the times. There can be occasions when we get external resistance, whether it's haters on the internet or friends, family, relationships. Like, we can get those external resistance, but what I most often see is resistance really growing is mostly internal. Okay, so we feel the resistance, and because of the resistance we don't take the actions, or we start taking actions but we're stopping. Okay, so I'm going to give you a great example of how and what emotions are, I believe, that are resistant emotions. So the very first emotion that I can describe is anxiety and fear. And these are the emotions that usually we tend to get in our heads with, like when we are about to take actions, we are like, okay, like overthinking what the outcome would be, or catastrophizing in a negative way. So thinking about what is going to happen, like the worst thing that's going to happen. And we are already thinking and anticipating those events happening without even happening. And we stop ourselves in the now because of those. I'm going to give you a really good example to kind of describe this emotion of anxiety and catastrophizing. One of my friend is looking to relocate to Switzerland, and her dream is to work there and be there. And she knows what she needs to do. She knows she needs to start applying for jobs. She's an engineer and she's a very, very smart lady. And it took her 2 weeks to even get to the point where, like, okay, let's start applying. And I offered her to sit down with her and in a coffee shop so that me and her I can help her overcome her resistance and just like apply, right? And it took her like 3 hours to even get to the point of starting to apply. And as she was going through the process, she was like, okay, but what if they say no to me? Or, oh my God, no, this is not perfect. Like, I cannot apply to this because of this and that. I knocked out every argument that she had about why she's not applying to this specific one or that specific one. But she was very hesitant to push send. And she told me that she needs to prepare herself for all the rejections that she's going to be getting from applying. And I told her, like, what rejections? Like, so far you have sent 3. There hasn't been any rejections. Like, please, I don't understand what kind of rejections you're anticipating when you're not applying. And again, at the end of the day, I told her, you know what, can you send 20 a day? Like, every day? I think by then, I'm sure you will going to have an option, or I'm sure by then you will have one offer at least if you send 20 a day and for a week or so, right? That's quite a big number of applications, right? Do you think she'd done it? She hasn't done it. And I checked back with her, like, okay, so you haven't done it? And she told me, like, oh yeah, because I was so exhausted and I couldn't think of like the rejections I'm going to be getting, and that really paralyzed me to act. And then she had another issue coming up with her relationship, and that's why she didn't do it. So again, it's been 2 weeks. I was meeting her a couple of days ago, and she still has not gotten a job offer. She kind of left the applications where they were, and she kind of didn't do it again. And it's really hard to get back to the flow of doing something when you were doing it and you just immediately stopped. It's so hard to get the wheels rolling. But that's a prime example of she wanting something, but also at the same time getting in her head and feeling anxious about it. The second emotion of resistance that I personally feel all the time is not fear, but fatigue. When I'm about to sit down and film a YouTube video like this one, I feel sometimes, it's not all the time by the way, but sometimes I feel this insane heaviness in my body, like even to get ready to sit down and film a video, or even to just like really find the time to sit down. I just immediately feel this, like I can't get out of bed, I can't do this, I can't, my body physically can feel heavy and fatigued whenever I'm trying to get out of my usual comfort zone. And again, there are about 100 million arguments of why I shouldn't be sitting down to film a video, for example, or for my marketing business, like film a video there, right? There are hundreds and millions of reasons why, and I can feel the body feeling heavy. And what I like to do in these occasions, because maybe this happens to you as well, when you feel like you want to do something where you just feel like your energy is like out of your body, what I like to do is acknowledge, like, wow, this is insane how much resistance my body is generating right now as I'm sitting down to film this video for you. That's insane. If I feel like, okay, this persists and I physically feel like my body is, like the energy level is dropping as I'm speaking or as I'm prepping or getting ready, I like to get up from my chair and I'm just like, I can't do this. Like I'm telling myself I cannot do this. And I walk off the room and I sit down and at the table and take 5 minutes break. Okay. So I'm sitting down, drinking some water and just like trying to change the state of mind that I have, because I'm like, this is not going. Like that's how I feel in the moment. I feel like this heaviness on my body. So I walk off, I sit down, I give myself a couple of minutes and I come back and I'm like, okay, let's do this again. And usually that kind of helps me overcome. And sometimes that's another trick that I do. I like to do things that are fun and exciting to me first to get me into the mood of doing something that's more difficult to do. Like, for example, I know that it's very easy for me to talk about certain topics, right? Like this topic is very easy for me to talk about. So if I'm feeling resistance to film content or create, for example, a marketing message or an email or reach out to potential customers, that's harder for me to do, even though that's necessary. I like to start things that are more fun so that my mood is lifted up, my energy level is rising, and then I can tackle the more difficult tasks that would normally be very resistant to my body and very fatigued in my body. And I do them later. So I start with the fun things, like, okay, what is an easy thing to do right now? What is an easy topic to do right now? What is something I can do right now that's easy for me to do, that I feel almost zero resistance? And I start with that and I can move into task with that momentum coming from there. Okay, so that's kind of one thing that I like to do when I feel that resistance. The other thing that I want to explain here is I don't think that resistance is ever gonna go away as long as we are stretching into a new territory that we haven't been before. Or sometimes resistance can just be, normal thing where we don't even have to think about why are we so resistant, because I believe when we're really going into, okay, like, why is it so hard for me? Like, what's wrong with you, body? Like, whoa. Like, even if we are going to our head and like try to think our way, like, okay, is it because I'm afraid? Like, am I self-sabotaging? Like, that can really send us into like more spirals than actually overcoming them, right? If I'm really, really thinking about why am I resisting resistance? Like, why am I feeling resistance? I can go down a rabbit hole, like we're INFJs. I can go down the rabbit hole and think about, okay, why do I feel this way? Instead of, okay, so I feel this way. What do I do now? Like, how do I overcome this really quickly so that I can be more productive? Okay? So that's kind of how I do it. And another way that I like to think of resistance is that it's a price to pay. So basically, it's almost like I expect it to happen, So I'm actually happy when it doesn't happen, when it's like, oh, wow, that was so easy. I had no resistance towards that. But that's not really the case all the time. And most of the times I feel it. So I'm like, okay, I'm expecting it to come. I'm expecting it to have the resistance. And I'm expecting it to welcome resistance. Like, here we go. It's like almost like you're going to a store, you're buying a product, you have to check out. For me, buying a product, checking out is like, okay, resistance is the checkout counter. Like, I'm doing something, I'm purchasing something, then I have to pay. I'm paying resistance. That's kind of how I am right now with my resistance. I'm like, okay, I need to live with this. I need to work with it. I can't just be ignoring it and be like, I don't feel nothing. Right? We're not psychopaths that we don't have these emotions. We do. And that's okay, It's just that we need to work with it somehow. Another thing that's really helpful for me, not only to anticipate resistance and then I walk out, I come back, or I do fun stuff first and to move into more resistant activity with more of an energy so that I can shift out of it. I also like to do two more things. The first thing that I like to do is I would like to think about why am I doing what I'm doing? And when we are really in our heads about what an action means about us, what people think about us, like if I'm just gonna do this, like they're gonna think about this. So instead of putting all the attention on us, like my friend, like she's sending her CVs, like what are you gonna think about me if I'm applying to this position I'm not qualified for, right? So instead of placing that attention on us, we can do two things. You can place the attention on the people. Instead of saying like, hey, I'm here trying to promote myself and get more business going, and what would people think of me? I'm going to think like, okay, but what is the benefit for people by me doing this work out there? Like, I'm doing it for others. Like, I'm not just showing up for myself, but I'm showing up for others so that I can create something that's helpful. And most INFJs, we want to help people. Like, that's generally, we go into businesses that are helping and serving people, our communities as well. Like, we are very helpful people, okay? And maybe you're not in that business, but I'm sure you're helping in some way. That's why you are in business, okay? So if we can place that attention and spotlight from us into the people, into like thinking, okay, this is a community service right there. So I am actually doing it for the people. I'm showing up for others so that people can learn and be better and be served and whatever. So I'm doing it for you. I'm not doing it for me anymore. Like, so it doesn't matter what am I thinking about, how I look like, or how people perceive me. But what I'm thinking about is what I'm putting out there is helpful. And so I need to do it for other people, because if I can't show up for myself, can I show up for the people? So I think that's really helpful for me to do that. And a lot of the time when I'm getting external resistance, because I think I can handle my internal resistance at this point, but I'm getting external resistance like trolls. I had this occasion when I was promoting our virtual hangout in a Facebook group, and I got this person who's trolling me, like commenting that I'm promoting how dare I promote, even though it's a free call that we do every month and I'm not selling anything. Even if I was, never mind. It's just a troll type of thing that these people do sometimes. And I would have been like, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore because there are trolls out there. But it's for the people, because I know that when we get together every month, like we have such quality conversations. Like there are so many cool INFJs I've met because we have those virtual hangouts every month. So I'm not going to be dimming my lights and not say that this is happening because there are external resistance. It's for the others, right? So I'm always thinking, okay, does it help one person? And if it does, like I'm going to keep talking about it, right? So it's easier to sometimes place attention from you to the people that need to hear the message, okay? That needs what you're doing. And that is really, really helpful. If you can't find that in you, you can do something that I was telling my friends at the time, the friend that was applying, is that you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it for your future self. So this version of you is fine, okay? But you have a desire to do more, to be more, to become more, to grow. You have that desire for a reason. So let's do your future self a favor in the now so that your future self can thank you later. And I think that's also a very helpful way to think about it, because my friend, she's applying for jobs for herself. So it's not like she's thinking about like, okay, how can I serve the community? She's thinking about like, how can I be living in a place where it's greener and the air is cleaner, right? Like she's really thinking about her future self. Like she's not a business owner, okay? That is also helpful if you are displacing the attention from the now in this version and thinking about, okay, my future version will be so happy that I have done this, that I have overcame my resistance and I got out of my head. My future self will be so happy that we're gonna celebrate together someday. Okay, so I really hope this was helpful. I was trying to condense all my helpful advices when it comes to resistance. I really hope that now you can recognize it better. And why it's happening, guys, there are 10 reasons it can happen. Read the book, How We Change and 10 Reasons We Don't. It's an excellent book. It will tell you 10 reasons why you don't want to change and why there is resistance. So instead of thinking, okay, like going down a rabbit hole, if you want to read the book, let's try to work with what we have in the now and what we can do to welcome it. Like, okay, cool, now I'm doing a new things. Like, of course I feel anxiety. Of course I feel heaviness and fatigue in my body. So let's work with those things instead of, going down to see why we have those in the first place. We all do actually feel that, again, like I said, I have clients that I work with 7-figure range, and they still do get in their heads and feel resistance to do certain stuff. That's a human experience, guys. It's not even an INFJ experience, okay? So just some people get easy. They overcome it more easier than others. And I feel like INFJs can really get in our heads and get really anxious about it. So I hope this was helpful. If you're not a member of the INFJ Entrepreneurs community, would love to have you there and join us. I'm going to put the link for the group in the description of this video. Don't forget, drive over fear, progress over perfection. Thank you so much for watching or listening. Bye, guys.